All right. Well, this is an interesting one, guys. Ari Nagel, he's a professor of math, but he is most known for being the biological father to 140 different children. They have nicknamed him the Sperminator, and he is a sperm donor to anyone who wants him to help out. And he does not charge for his services. Some people think he's a hero and he's helping out couples who otherwise wouldn't be able to conceive. Other people have accused him of being on an ego trip and being a narcissist and a bad person. He tells a story in this episode, along with some of the complications about doing something like this. Love him or hate him, this is all legal, he tells me. And this is sometimes the price of freedom and being an American, is that some people, you're not going to agree with their lifestyle. But I think you should give Ari a chance and hear his story before you make any assumptions. He's coming right up. No pun intended. Okay. All right. So Orthodox Jewish, you said four brothers and two sisters?
Yes, and 28 nieces and nephews.
And
And
then
they're all
so-
married in traditional relationships.
And what are you, the oldest or youngest or middle?
Yes, I'm the typical middle child.
Okay. So middle child. Then what was your relationship like with your parents? Like what is, because I mean, you're a father. What was your relationship like with your own father?
Yeah, I mean, I have a good relationship with my parents, but they're quite ashamed of my lifestyle. I mean, they would wish that I would just marry like all of my siblings and start a more traditional family. But I went to visit them this week. They're still in Florida. They usually go for the winters, but they stayed a little longer this year. And we're still quite close, even if they don't approve of my lifestyle.
But so like growing up, did you felt like loved? Is it you felt like you were, had enough attention?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, somehow my father feels like maybe he didn't give me enough attention, perhaps, but I certainly didn't feel that way. I had a wonderful childhood. In fact, I think he was a better father to me than I'll be for any of my children.
And I mean, gave you a lot of hugs, told you he loved you all the time, all that stuff.
Yeah, I had a great childhood. And of course, it was just also fun growing up in a house with four brothers and two sisters who, a lot of them have twin brothers that are 18 months older than me. So it was just a fun household. I always had friends home because my siblings are my best friends.
So there was always a lot of people in and out of the house because of like all your brothers and sisters and friends and.
Always, yep. It was a fun childhood. I mean, I went to yeshiva, so maybe I didn't have I could have probably done without that, part of, but I didn't know at the time, I was popular.
What? Sorry, say that again.
I went to yeshiva, it's like this parochial school. It wasn't the education. It was long hours. We spent hours a day studying Aramaic and subjects that are really just impractical. So I think looking back, I'm seeing the education that my kids get, and I think it's far superior to whatever I was getting. And we were just studying just hours of Talmud a day and subjects that have very little value. Even the Hebrew that I was learning was like biblical Hebrew, so it wasn't even applicable when I went on my trips to Israel. I have 5 kids in Israel, and I could barely even communicate with them in Hebrew because the Hebrew that I learned was biblical Hebrew, not modern Hebrew.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know there was a difference. That's interesting.
Well, it's like Old English, where art thou? So it won't really help. I mean, I can read it and write it fluently, but they wouldn't understand when I'm speaking, and I don't understand what they're saying.
Okay, gotcha. So how old are you? You had this motorcycle accident and then you got some money from the insurance company, like 70 grand. This was like, you were like 18, 19 or
17.
17. Okay. So
yeah,
then
it was 2 days before my brother's wedding. And my mother came to me in the hospital yelling, like, what were you doing? What were you thinking? But it was an accident, and I still made it to my brother's wedding, albeit I was in a wheelchair. But I broke my femur bone. It wasn't my fault. The guy basically ran a stop sign kind of thing. And I didn't even hire a lawyer, which is funny because I never hired a lawyer for any of my child support cases either. I always just went in without a lawyer, and sometimes with, probably limited in success. But in this case, I didn't hire a lawyer. I probably would have made more had I hired a lawyer, but they ended up just settling with me and gave me the 70 grand. Thanks to Reagan, it was tax free. And I took that money and did a lot of traveling. Of course, I the first thing I did was buy a bigger motorcycle. But after that, I used it to travel to around 40 countries. And but at some point over those travels, I really did lose a little bit of my faith.
Of your faith. Okay, so what else? Yeah, what else did you learn about yourself and the world by traveling? Because that's a lot of traveling. I mean, that must have really changed you. If you just were mostly used to being in, this town in New York. I mean, seeing 40 different countries, that would totally change a man, I would think.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I was growing up in almost like a ghetto, so it was a very, very sheltered lifestyle. I don't even think I knew how to make a baby in high school. Like they didn't teach that. So it was pretty sheltered. I went to all boys elementary schools. I went to all boys high schools. So I think in many ways I was socially retarded. I think graduating at 17 years old, I was going to college and I didn't really, know how to socialize. I think a lot of my relationships, perhaps in my 20s, were maybe what other people would have in their high school years, where they were immature. And I think certainly it helped me get out of my shell a little bit, traveling to so many different places and maybe be less shy and more social. But part of that was also just seeing so many different faiths and seeing people worship, all sorts of different, uh, you know, cows. I was in India for 3 months, or meeting so many Jehovah's Witnesses that left the faith, and I think it was influential and maybe playing a role in perhaps me not practicing Orthodox Judaism anymore.
Did you get like lonely being on the road? I mean, after you're used to living in this house with all these people, now you're traveling by yourself, right? So does it get lonely on the road, just like not having someone to come home to every day?
Oh, well, you're not really lonely for long because, you could only really let another day or two go by without talking to people. So eventually, I was staying in hostels. I wasn't staying in
Oh,
five-star
okay.
hotels always. So I was meeting people and socializing. So, no, I think it helps you become more outgoing when you travel alone. I think if I was traveling with friends, I would have hung out with my friends the whole time. But then when you travel by yourself, it helps you learn to make new friends.
Yeah. So you say you were socially retarded in high school, like, or you just didn't have a lot of friends. You didn't have a friend group or like a group of
Oh,
guys.
I was very popular in elementary
Oh,
school and high school. I think I meant with the opposite gender. I was going to all boys.
oh, okay.
I think in that sense, I wasn't really adept at really handling relationships with the opposite gender.
Gotcha. Okay. So then, eventually, then how this whole thing started. It sounds like you saw an ad for a sperm donor on Craigslist, and what made you want to respond to that or reach out to this person?
Yeah, well, I was using Craigslist for lots of other things. So I found my housekeeper on Craigslist. I sold my old motorcycle on Craigslist, and it was just a website that you were using. So I was even finding odd jobs just for fun. I remember when Spider-Man 2 came out, Toys R Us hired me to be Spider-Man for the day. Like I was just doing all sorts of random things on Craigslist, and that's when I came across this ad. I don't even know what section it was in, if it was in the personal ad section or the services section or the odd job section. I don't remember, but that's really where I encountered actually two ads. It was two women that posted on there, and they couldn't be more different, even though they were living right near each other. One was in Chelsea, one was on the Upper West Side, one was a single Jewish woman who was in her 40s and wasn't meeting Mr. Right and just wanted to start a family on her own and be a single mother by choice. And then the other was a lesbian African American couple living in Chelsea, and they obviously needed my help to grow their family. They had three boys and they wanted a girl.
And so for these first, because I know like most of these you've done it for free. Did you get paid for the first two, or did you even do the first two for free?
No, they were all free. That they both wanted different things. That the single woman from the Upper West Side wanted to do a marriage and a divorce a number of months later, and she, even though she was heterosexual, because of her age, it precluded us trying on our own. So we ended up using a clinic. Whereas the lesbian couple, we ended up conceiving the child the old-fashioned way because I didn't really know of another way to conceive a child. Of course, now the vast majority of my donations, I'm just putting the sperm in a cup and they're putting it inside. But my first few donations were either the old fashioned way, or in this case, because she was in her 40s, we ended up using a fertility clinic.
Okay. So, but like, what made so if you're not even getting paid for this first one at all either? Like, what was the incentive for you at that point? Like, you just wanted to help out, or
Yeah, well, I already had a son because I had had a, I wouldn't want to say casual encounter, but I was dating a girl for a few weeks, and we had a very uh, I don't want to say an accident. He doesn't like to be called an accident, but an unplanned pregnancy. And so he was a few years old, and I certainly enjoyed being a father, but I wasn't really in a relationship with the mom or uh, on particularly great terms. We were co-parenting, but it was challenging, I think, and I felt like this was perhaps a way where I can grow my own family as my brothers and sisters were growing theirs, while not having to deal with perhaps the drama that a relationship might entail.
Right. But so with those first two, were you a part of those kids' lives at all, or do they want you to not be a part of the kids' lives?
It's up to the moms, so it varies. In this case, some it's hit or miss. Sometimes they're open to it, sometimes they're less open. So um, it's really up to them. But I always put the ball in their court. I see both of them occasionally, as long as the mom permits. They're 14 years old now. They're turning 15 in August and September. So, at a certain point, they'll start to make those decisions on their own, and maybe I'll have a closer relationship. But I have both their numbers saved in my cell phone, and we chat, and I've gotten together with both of them recently.
Okay. Yeah. So it's interesting because like some people are like they're really like negative towards you in this whole story, which is interesting to me because it seems like a lot of these women that you're helping, I mean, they're gonna do this regardless, right? It's just like you're kind of saving them some money because isn't it really expensive to do it through a clinic and to get a sperm donor? Like you said, thousands of dollars, right?
Yes, that's true. And the vast majority of the time, they're not spending anything. And even when they use the clinic, sometimes insurance may cover it. The only part that the insurance doesn't cover, oddly enough, is the actual sperm, which it's not thousands of dollars. It's $1,000. But if you're using a clinic to insert the sperm, then yeah, it could be many thousands of dollars if you don't have insurance coverage. Uh, listen, the people have all sorts of views. Obviously, it's gotten a little out of control. I have 140, so sometimes people hear that number and they say, "Well, that's absurd." That's not normal per se. In the end, I think other people might see the same thing and say, "Wow, that's a beautiful thing that he's doing, and not charging for it, and helping so many beautiful families grow." I see both sides. I think ultimately, in the end, whatever these views that people have nothing to do with me. These people don't know me. They never met any of the kids. They never met any of the moms. I think once you do that, inevitably your opinions will change. But I think their negative views probably have more to do with the kind of people that they are and less to do with what kind of person I am.
Yeah, because I think another thing you said, the advantage of for some of these women using you rather than the clinic is that when they're getting it from the clinic, they can't see the picture of the person. They don't know the person's temperament, and a lot of those people obviously are not going to be involved in any level. Which I mean, you kind of like you said, you have both. You have some that you're not involved at all, but some you are involved in to some level. I mean, as much as you can be, right?
Yep, I got to see this week 14 kids. So I'm sounds like a lot, but it's really just 10%. Of course, there was some graduations, and I did a little bit of traveling. I saw 8 kids in Florida this past week. Plus, of course, I went to visit my folks. So once I was there, I ended up doing a little trip. Of course, I have 12 kids in Florida. They're spread all over the state. I have in Sarasota, Jacksonville, South Florida, Orlando. So it's difficult to visit all of them, but I did get to visit 8 of them. And then yesterday, I did an award ceremony. This morning, I did a graduation. In another 2 hours, I'll be doing some karate event. She has some kind of something or other father son karate. I guess it's for Father's Day. So yeah, but Father's Day is a little busier, and then graduation season makes it busy. I mean, yeah, but definitely bit off more than I could chew. So disappointing. Tomorrow I got a gender reveal in Connecticut. I would like to go. It's 2.5 hours there, 2.5 hours back. Just like the award ceremony yesterday was around 2.5 hours drive each way, and I had a woman ovulating today in Las Vegas, and I was thinking about flying out. But of course, if I would have flown out, then I would have missed the karate event. I would have missed the gender reveal. I would have missed Father's Day with my children. I have my son on Sunday getting his first haircut. It's a Jewish tradition that they do when the kid's 3 years old. They do the first haircut. So I'll be attending that. I think maybe some of my family members might be attending that as well. So I got a busy weekend, that's for sure. And then there's other kids that I never met, and it's dynamic. So sometimes they want me to play a role, sometimes they don't, and then sometimes it just changes back and forth. And maybe they don't foresee me playing a role, and then the kid gets 8 or 9 and starts asking questions, and then they say, "Well, here's your dad. You could just give him a call," that kind of thing. So it goes back and forth.
And these women know what they're getting into when they sign up with you. that you're going to be busy because you have 140 kids. So they're going to know that you can't always be there for everything.
Yes, they should be aware of that. I got in trouble like 3 months ago. I missed a baptism in Harrisburg, but I just had a lot on my plate that weekend, and I wasn't able to make the 5 hour journey. She was really livid, and I didn't say the obvious of like, oh, that wasn't my first child, that was like number 120, but yeah, I hope they're aware. I think any role is probably better than no role. I think even just the knowing, because people always say, well, why don't you do it the normal way? Go to a clinic, but there's nothing normal about it. The normal way is where it's like an anonymous donation, and it's so strange. The truth is, it depends on the country. So the U.S. is quite good because you could actually choose who your donor can be, and you actually have the option to see a picture. Although sometimes they may just charge you more for it. They may charge you for the photo package. But I was in Spain last month, and I was helping a woman there, and she said that when she went to the clinic, she wasn't allowed to choose who the donor should be. The doctor chooses, and she doesn't really get any information, not a picture. She gets, I think, eye color, height, and race, or something like that. Like maybe blood type, I think, was one of the like three things that she really gets known. But she doesn't get to choose. The doctor chooses, and that's true in a lot of countries. And it just seems so backwards, like the most important decision of your life, and you can't even order the sperm from another country that allows you to choose. So, like, who are they protecting? It just makes no sense, and that's the normal accepted way. In the U.S., you are able to choose. Some countries you can't, but you're able to order from another country that allows you to. In Spain, that wasn't the case, but a lot of the countries allow you to order from another country where sometimes they'll give you the baby picture. In the end, ultimately, you probably can chase down and find the identity of your owner, maybe of your donor, just by maybe doing a 23andMe or an Ancestry.com. So there are ways, but I think that's prohibited. You are signing a contract, maybe sometimes saying that you're not going to try and seek out your anonymous donor. And then some countries, make anonymous donations illegal, and they want all the donations to be known donors. So every country, I mean, IVF is really a new phenomenon. It was invented in my lifetime. So I think the laws are still catching up with the times, and they'll try and figure out what works best. The US, I think, is the wild west of fertility. So you're even allowed to bring a known donor into the clinic. Of course, it makes it a lot more complicated because there's a whole bunch of more paperwork that's involved. So the vast majority of the time, if I end up using a clinic, I just go as the woman's partner as opposed to as the woman's donor.
Interesting. Yeah, I heard you say too that this was interesting to me that they charge more for different races. Is that true?
Of course, different sperm counts, different races, different education levels. Everything's going to be a different price, and different
Wow.
religions, because it's a lot of it is supply and demand. So if there's a shortage of a certain type, they may have sales on certain sperm if they have an excess amount of that. And the countries that try to maybe make it limit the number of donors that ends up having a shortage, and then it makes it even more expensive. So it's a difficult situation. There's no easy answer of like, hey, let's just limit each donor to 10 families. Well, then it's so expensive already. And then when they vet a donor, there's a lot of expense involved. So it really is not financially um, uh, possible to just limit a donor to 10, because they're going through so much expense to vet the donor, and that once they have one, they really want the donor to donate many, many times so that it'll be available. Anyway, so it's challenging. I think. I think ultimately, in the end, the laws will work itself out. They have to allow where you could just bring a friend into a clinic. It is allowed in the U.S., but it's so complicated. Most countries, that's not allowed. You can't just say, "All right, here's my donor. We want to have a child together." That's prohibited in most countries. Some countries you have to be married in order to use a fertility clinic. It's bizarre sometimes, because sometimes they're like countries that you think would be quite forward thinking, Germany or France, you have to be a married couple in order to use a fertility clinic.
Interesting. So you said for like a regular anonymous donor in America, there is a limit of 10 or no, there is no limit.
Nope. There's protocols. So the protocols is 25 donations per 800,000 people. Of course, it doesn't matter what country you're in. It's very rare that any of these are enforced, because whatever fertility clinic I go to is not sharing their information with the other fertility clinics. So no one really knows how many were actually conceived. Nobody's keeping track. So let's say I donate 10 times. Nobody's seeing how many of those actually produced children. Nobody keeps track of that.
Yeah.
So nobody knows how many children I have. If I was donating anonymously at the clinics, there'd be no way for me to know how many children I have. Because no one keeps records of that. So if I later discovered that I had some kind of terrible heart condition or something, and I wanted to notify all my recipients, oh my God, something terrible happened. I have this heart condition. Make sure your children get checked out for this heart condition. There's no way that I can even reach out to them, because if I donated anonymously, I don't know who these uh, recipients are, and there's no way for me to track them down. Uh, Now, if I, God forbid, had some kind of condition that I wanted all them, it would take me literally just a minute. I could post on the Facebook group and just say, hey, by the way, I have, because I have a Facebook group of a lot of the families that I helped with, around 90 moms in there, and that would really cover almost all of them. And then I could just shoot out a couple text messages or WhatsApp groups, and I'd be able to alert all of them to whatever concern. Not only that, but the mothers can share any kind of health concerns that they have with the other moms. There are a lot of them are in touch with each other. None of that's really possible in any organized way with the anonymous donations.
Yeah,
And I
because
think,
you have an Excel spreadsheet of all the kids and the birth dates and the moms and all those contact
yes,
information. Yeah.
of course, yes, and then of course I'm getting together, and then even the moms that don't want me to play a role in the children's lives, a lot of them do feel more open to having relationships with the other moms, or having their kids have relationships with their siblings. So a lot of them get together. So I know I have like two kids in Tennessee, one in Memphis, one in Nashville, and they get together all the time. The moms are quite close. So they have these groups. Some of the Israeli moms are quite close to each other, and they keep in touch with each other. So there's organic groups that were created, sometimes just based on where they're located, or if they had common cultural, sometimes the Haitian moms might be closer to each other, but a lot of times it's just geographically. If I have moms in Florida with kids that are similar in age, then they're going to be getting together quite often. And same with the have kids similar ages in Jersey, might be getting together often for play dates.
Yeah. So with 140 kids, has there been any other health issues like with the babies, like with the births, with like birth defects or autism or anything like that?
Of course, I have 140 kids. One in 22 males are going to be autistic. That's just the general, statistic. So the math never lies. I'm pretty sure that if I have 60 boys, that there's going to be three autistic boys there, somewhere on the spectrum. Obviously, if I see anything concerning where something comes out of the norm, where I have more than what would typically be appropriate, that'd be something that I could be alerted to, and then maybe make adjustments or retire. So, I had a child born last month, and the child was tongue tied, and I never heard of that before, but I looked it up, and it was like 11% of the children are born tongue tied. So that's something I could watch out for. But uh,
What is that exactly? That's a medical
uh,
condition?
yeah, it's something that's easily fixable. You just clip the tongue, but apparently 11% of people are born tongue-tied. It's something where like the tongue is stuck to the bottom palate. I'm not quite sure.
Ah, but it's easily
Right.
fixable. That's good.
Yeah, they snip it, and sometimes it corrects itself or something along those lines. So, um, she reached out to a lot of the other moms, say, hey, did any of the other moms or any of you tongue tied? So it's something that they were able to do, and a lot of them support each other. Sometimes there might be a baby shower, and then other moms will throw the baby shower for the new expecting moms. So that happens sometimes, and I don't know who's going to be attending this gender reveal, but it's in Connecticut. I might have some other Connecticut moms joining.
Okay. So yeah, you're a busy man. So like when you do the meetup, you've done a couple of these the old fashioned way, but usually it's this cup or something that you hand off to them. And you've done it in like Target bathrooms and things like that.
It's a menstrual cup, so it's something that women use for their period. So they
Okay.
would put this cup in when they're on their period to prevent the blood from leaking out. But of course, you could also put the sperm there and then insert it, and then the cup will actually be holding the sperm close to the cervix, so it would have less to swim. And then maybe even if they weren't lying down, the sperm wouldn't fall out, because a lot of times what we're doing is just on the go, and they're not lying down in bed afterwards. So it's just an easy, simple way. It probably works just the same as had I done it the old-fashioned way. I don't think it's any kind of giving you any kind of extra benefit, but it's just not necessary that we sleep with each other. And of course, maybe when I started, it was possible for me to conceive the children the old-fashioned way, just because I wasn't helping 5 women in a month. But if I'm helping 5 women in a month, there's really no way I can protect these other women if I'm having unprotected sex with them. So uh, it just makes it a little easier where I could just put it in a cup. I'm not putting myself at risk. And then I know that, each of these women are not going to, you know, contract any kind of STD, because that would be the last thing I want. That would be a lot of difficult phone calls, God forbid, if I had an STD, and then I would have to contact, 30 partners. Even if I get tested once a month, that just really wouldn't even work, because I could sometimes make 15 donations in a month. Of course, it varies. Sometimes you have 2, 3 people ovulating the same day, and then sometimes a week goes by and nobody asks me for a donation. Of course, today someone tested positive in Vegas, but because it was Father's Day and I have this event on Sunday. I don't know. I just felt like I bailed on her. She understood. I think it was I have someone ovulating in Atlanta this weekend, so I thought maybe I'd go there. But most of the time, most of my kids are just in the New York area. I have around 50 kids in New York.
Okay. So let's talk about the moms. So some of them you said obviously are lesbian couples, some single moms. Is there any heterosexual couples where the father can't shoot in blanks or whatever you call it?
Yep, sure. Sometimes it's not as common, but there is. I have a woman pregnant in Florida now, and that's a heterosexual couple. Um, of course, I already have a heterosexual couple in Florida as well, and then in a couple of other states. And of course, it varies. Sometimes, more than likely, they don't really want me to play a role as much. And then sometimes it's a heterosexual couple. Yeah, I have one in Queens. I was going to go visit when the baby was born, and she was like, "No, my husband's here." I was like, "Husband?" She's like, "Yeah." In fact, what was interesting is this baby's less than a year old. He's 9 months, and she tried with me and her husband on the same day, and then she wasn't sure who the father was, so I just had her do like a ancestry kind of thing where she did my heritage. She paid the $50 just to see who the father was, because she wasn't really sure when the baby was born who the child looks like. So that's what we ended up doing. I think the husband didn't really want any children. He was a little older, but it turns out that was the father.
Okay. Interesting. And so you don't do any background checks on these women. The fertility clinics don't either though. But you will help anybody. They'll help anybody who can pay. You'll help anybody for free. That's kind of the difference there, right?
Essentially, yep. And, we're more or less asking similar questions, except for the fact that, uh, I would ask maybe their age, because if they're in their 40s, I'm going to still help them. But maybe I would suggest using a clinic. And sometimes, if we can't use a clinic in the United States, I could advise them on how to get health coverage where it would give them insurance so that we could use a clinic in the US. Otherwise, I would suggest clinics abroad that we could be able to go to help them conceive. A lot of times, I was in Canada this week helping a woman conceive, and then I'll be going to Mexico probably next month to help a woman conceive. So sometimes it's Eastern Europe, or I've been to a lot of countries. The vast majority of the time, it's not to help women from Eastern Europe, it's to help women who are maybe from the US or from Germany, where the laws are more restrictive or the costs are more prohibitive. So we would just go to a cheaper clinic where the laws are more lax.
Yeah, because some of the women that you've donated to were not in a good place mentally or financially. I know you talked about one woman who was schizoaffective, but there was a lot of people that stepped in to help take care of that baby. Do you think it would help to have a vetting process? Like, I know you want to help these women, not to say no, but to say, hey, let's wait until, you have a good job, till you're financially stable, and then I will help you. Like, or do you think you can't police? That's something you can't police.
Well, I met this woman who was schizoaffective, and honestly, you wouldn't know, because if she's not having an episode, there's really no way to know. She was very lovely. I guess if I really wanted to be invasive, I could have given her a blood test and say, hey, listen, I want to give you a blood test, make sure you're not on any psychotic meds. And the truth is, had I done that, which is quite extreme, nothing would have shown up because she wasn't on meds. That was part of the problem, that she wasn't taking her psychotic meds. So that's why when the baby was born, the baby ended up, she ended up having an episode because she was off the meds. But I think the Child Protective Services was going to put the kid in foster care, and they called me and they said, if you don't pick up the baby today, the child's going in foster care. And I just asked some other moms that I have children with, is anyone able to help out? And immediately dozens and dozens of them said, whatever you need, we'll take care of the baby. Because, first of all, a lot of these moms are single moms. Yeah. Not single moms. I meant they only have one child, so they have only children. So they love the fact that their child might be able to get to play with their sibling. A lot of them wanted another child, but then because of maybe their health or their age, they weren't able to have another child. So for them, it was a big blessing to be able to raise another child. In the end, I chose a family that was just living locally, who was fostering other children, and they were already part of the system, and they're doing a great job. In fact, it was over a year ago, because this was February in 2022, and the child's still with this family. And of course, he's not growing up with strangers. He's growing up with his brother, and he's being raised by a lovely family, and really thriving. Of course, we're hoping and praying that the mother will regain custody. It's a slow process. So they did supervised visits. Now it's unsupervised visits. But at least during the process, the child's thriving, and not with strangers, but with family.
Yeah, it is interesting though, because there's no law for that. Even if it's people just doing the old fashioned way and having babies, like there's no law that says you have to be ready to have a child. Like you could just have a child. It's interesting just because I was a school counselor for 17 years. So I saw a lot of that working with kids. And what I like that is that, in your situation, these kids can still call you. Like you said, they know who you are. You'd be surprised how many kids I talked to that were some of the neatest kids I've ever met in my life. And they had no idea who their father was. It was heartbreaking. So
It is, and they struggle with identity issues. A lot of the moms that reached out to me, they were so close with their dad. So for them to have a child that's never going to know who their father is was just too traumatic for them. And they said, I don't want my child to experience that. And then the reverse was true too. I had a lot of moms that reached out to me that had no idea who their father was, and they were suffering with identity issues till this day, just looking at strangers or dreaming about who their father may or may not be, looking at random people in the street saying, is that my dad? And trying to track down their father, and for them to put their kid through the same thing. So it was working both ways. Moms that were close to their dad and moms that never knew their dad all just wanted to make sure that their kid doesn't suffer from that same predicament and knows who their father is.
yeah, absolutely. Well, I know you've talked about this before too, but so the child support thing, because I'm sure a lot of people wondering about that. That's something where typically when you have an agreement with this person that they're not going to come after you for child support, but there's no contract that you can sign. So it's kind of like a on your word kind of thing. And most of them have not come after you, but there have been a handful. And now at this point, because how does it work? Something about like after the fifth person, like each subsequent person that chases after you is going to get less money. So at this point, it wouldn't even really make sense for someone to do that, right?
Well, I'd like to think that they're just honest and have good character, and that's the reason they don't do it. But it's true, they
Yeah.
wouldn't get as much as the first. But each state has different laws. New York's a minimum pay state, so they would always collect something, and even $50 a week might be a real struggle for me. But everybody could use $50 a week, so there's still a minimum amount that I would pay, even though maybe my income might be below the poverty line. But yeah, it's remarkable the fact that over 130 moms did not file for child support, and that there really were just so few that ended up going back on their word. My I'm trying to think. I think the youngest is maybe 8 years old. So that means in the past 8 years, I haven't had any moms, and that was really the vast majority of my children. So
Hmm.
I think I only have maybe like another 15 years of child support before I can
Okay.
actually start saving for retirement.
Yeah, I think one of the other interviews you did, the guy, I think he was a lawyer or something. He said these moms can sue you for civil negligence. Is that something you're worried about or concerned about at all?
That doesn't even make any sense. Civil negligence. I can't even
I know
imagine.
that's what he said. Yeah, I'm not a
Yeah,
lawyer. I
I
don't know.
think they could sue for child support. That's about all they could sue for. I've never heard of another parent suing the other parent for civil negligence. The opposite is true as well. I really could file for custody of my children. That's the agreement. The agreement is obviously this is the most precious thing in their life, and I'm not going to file for custody. I let the parents make 100% of the decisions. But they're all amazing moms and love their children dearly. So I'm very blessed in that regard. But I certainly disagree with lots of the decisions. There's all sorts of different parenting styles. I have a lot of moms that are homeschooling, and I it just makes no sense to me because they're sending me the homework for the kid, so I could do the kid's homework because the kid doesn't know how to do the homework. So I'm like, maybe, and they don't know how to do the homework. I'm like, maybe you shouldn't be homeschooling. Uh, so, of course, also the social reasons, the million and one reasons. I'm a big proponent of homeschooling. I just think it should be done after they get home from school. Then go homeschool them. You don't have to have them homeschool the whole day. You could just have them go to school till 2 o'clock, and then you homeschool them from 2 to 7 before they go to bed. I got a lot of moms that are anti-vaxxers, and you know, obviously I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I'm pro-vaccine. A lot of them are out of the school. They can't enter the school system because the moms are anti-vaxxers. So, yeah, that's problematic. This uh, they're anti everything. Anti speech therapy. Oh no, Einstein didn't talk till he's 4. I don't want to get my kid any kind of speech therapy. But all sorts of just wacky things. But of course, most of them I couldn't. Are nothing but amazing mothers, and I think in the end, whether the kid gets the vaccine and doesn't get the vaccine, I'm sure they'll do fine. I think as long as they have a lot of love in their life, that's really all they need.
So you're kind of like annoyed, but you're not really that frustrated because that's kind of like the deal you made, right? Is that you're not really going to have a say.
Correct. Exactly. Yeah. Not only that, I won't even mention it to them. I'll tell you, but I'm not going to armchair. I'm not armchair quarterbacking their parenting style or their parenting decisions. That's the arrangement we made, and I'm going to stick by that arrangement. If they ask for my advice, I'll certainly share it. I had parents that you know was struggling a little bit financially, and then they're sending their kids to like a Catholic school, and I'm like, you could just send the kid to public school. The education will be free. If you're really struggling, maybe that might be I don't know, but generally, it's really a hands-off approach. They make 100% of the decisions. They get to name the child, even if I disagree with the name. I think that's schizo affective mom. That was probably the first indication that I thought she was a little off because she was coming up with all sorts of wacky names, and I'm like, no, you can't do that. That's unfair. And then, of course, she declined the special K shot and the azithromycin and just the vitamins. She was just anti all modern science.
Wow, interesting. So this is Father's Day weekend. How many cards and phone calls and presents do you get on a typical Father's Day?
I'm going to try and do, the truth is, I don't know. I still don't even know if I'm going to be out of town because I told you I had this, couple in Atlanta that was asking me to come out this weekend, but it's going to be hard to get away. I'm probably going to bail on them so I could be local. I'm going to probably do a dinner. That's usually what I'll do with a whole bunch of my kids, whoever can make it to New York, and celebrate. But it'll be a lot of phone calls and video chats and messages. It's a fun day for me.
Okay. Yeah. Cause you talk about, how you're bringing joy to these people, you're helping them out, but I'm worried about you. Like, you seem very happy, but doing this, it makes you happy?
I think, my 4 brothers and 2 sisters, and they're very traditional families, are also very, very happy. It's funny because I think a lot of these women choose me because I'm very tall. I'm 6'2", or they choose me because I have blue eyes, and they want their children to have blue eyes. Sometimes they choose me because I'm Jewish. I don't really care if my kids are Jewish or not. Obviously, they're all different faiths. Sometimes they choose me because I'm good at math, and they were like, oh, I want my child to be good at math. I don't know if that's hereditary. The one attribute that I would like my children to have, and I don't really care if they're Jewish or they're good at math or they're tall or if they have blue eyes, but I'm happy. And I think a lot of it might be hereditary. And I'm hoping that they at least inherit that gene, because that's really all I wish for my children, is that they should be happy. So would I have been happy in a traditional family? Sure. Does this bring me a lot of happiness? Of course. But I think happiness probably has less to do with your predicament and more to do with your outlook.
What makes you feel like it's your job to help these women? Obviously these women need help. If you're a lesbian couple, you need somebody to do this, but why do you feel a duty to do this? Because it's often to the detriment of yourself in terms of your time and your finances. A lot of your time and money is wrapped up in this, right? Doesn't that hurt you a little bit?
It's funny you talk about time and finances. You find me a parent that isn't struggling with time and finances. That's true of every parent. And I'll have a busy, busy week. It's true, but it's like all joyous occasions. I went to an award ceremony yesterday. I went to a graduation today, and my daughter got more awards. And it's just just really a lot of fun. So no, I don't look at it as a chore, and I don't think any parent really is looking at parenting as a chore. It's their greatest joy. So no, I certainly enjoy it. I think in many ways. If you take one single mom, raising one child is probably doing more work than I'm doing for all my 140 because they can, if I want to go to Atlanta tomorrow, I just go and hop on a plane and I'll fly to Atlanta. I almost was going to head to Vegas tomorrow to help this woman. I don't need to call anybody to get coverage for babysitting or anything. I really can just pick up and go. And none of the other mothers that are raising any of my 140 children can do that. That they all have responsibilities, and they don't have a 5-minute break unless they find coverage for those 5 minutes. So I'm a little uncomfortable with people saying of the sacrifices that I'm making. If anything, it's really these wonderful moms. The sacrifices that they make are really the reason I'm able to do this 140 times.
Yeah, but like, do you have any like time to yourself, or do you have like time with the guys where you do like a guys trip to Vegas or stuff like that, or is that just not interest you?
Well, of course, I would have partied like a rock star in Vegas because this woman that was ovulating only needed me for 5 minutes. The rest of the time I would have been just enjoying life. Of course, I have a couple that's pregnant in Vegas, so obviously I would have gotten together with them. Maybe hit a buffet. But the rest of the time I would have been enjoying life. I'm doing a lot of traveling. I was in Canada. I was in Florida this week. I travel quite a lot, almost every weekend sometimes. So that could be a little draining, but it's also joyful. There's a lot of fun there. I was traveling when I was in my 20s too. 17, I got into a motorcycle accident. I was traveling to 40 countries. I'd land in a country and then I would have to navigate and figure out, well, where am I going to sleep tonight? Where am I going to eat tomorrow? And now when I land in a country or a city or a state, I get picked up in the airport, usually by the mom, and then they take me to their home, and then they say, hey, let's go to my favorite restaurant. It's a whole new way to travel. My parents are in Florida, and they're ready to relocate to New York because they're really just snowbirds, but they stayed a little longer. And I was going to help them drive their car down from Florida to New York. And, I don't need them to join because my dad's 80, my mom's 75. I'm like, you fly, I'll take the car, I'll road trip. And for me, I won't need a hotel because I'm going to drive from Florida, and then I have kids in Georgia, and I have kids in South Carolina, and then North Carolina, and then Virginia, and then Pennsylvania, Maryland, and then Pennsylvania, you name it, the whole state, all up and along the East Coast. I have kids in every single one of those states. I don't need a hotel wherever I'm going. That's a blessing too.
Yeah, because and a lot of these women will pay for you the airfare and stuff for you to come visit or to do the exchange or those things, right? Or sometimes.
Sorry.
Sometimes the women will pay for you to travel to like to do the exchange or things like that.
Oh, that's true. Yep. Yes, that is true. The woman from Canada reimbursed me for my IVF there. Of course, I went to Canada right at the height of their smoke. It was funny because I was going to Canada right in the eye. That was a couple of days ago. Yeah, they do reimburse me more often than not for my travels if I'm going. Of course, usually I'm going to help a woman conceive, but then I'll also go and try and visit some children there as well. I just got my daughter in Mexico a U.S. passport this week, so I want to try and visit her before she starts traveling.
Do you think that this is kind of a weird question, but do you think that there's like an addiction piece to this? Like, are you kind of addicted to the feeling of the joy of having a baby born, or the excitement of seeing the woman's face, or whatever it is, the piece of this? Is there some sort of like thing that you really like that feeling and you want to keep doing that? Or is this a point where you're going to retire from this?
I mean, I'm 47, so I think retirement is in the cards. Obviously, my age might have some increased health risks. I don't really feel comfortable, helping women grow their families when I'm in my 50s. So I think, it is going to end. As far as an addiction, I'm not really an addictive. I don't know if that's such a thing. Addicted to having kids. That'd be a new syndrome that I invented. No, I don't have an addicting personality. I'm not addicted to smoking or drinking or anything else. So no, I don't think so. Someone's asking for my help, so I can say, listen, I can't help you because someone might think I'm addicted, and they'll be like, well, I don't really care what they think. It's not about me having my 141st child. This is about helping this woman in Vegas who doesn't have any children. Okay. And she's 41 years old and she's not legal here. So she can't travel to another country to get the fertility treatment. And she can't afford fertility treatment here or get a job that would help give her health insurance. So it's like the only way is really just me flying out there and trying with her each month. Uh, yeah, you get invested in their journey, certainly. I had an IVF yesterday and I missed it because I had this award ceremony. So I went earlier and I froze it. And this woman owns a daycare in her house and she just doesn't take any kids. She takes the troubled kids, the kids that no other daycare accepts. Okay. And then she also has a dog that she adopted from the pounds. And this dog is crippled, and like this woman is like a special soul. And I'm going to tell her, I don't want to help you because, people are going to think that, I have too many kids. And it's like, no, this is not about me and my journey of, populating the earth. This is a very, very, very special woman who's just an amazing person. And I think was meant to be a mother. That's what these daycare workers are. If you have a nursery or you're working in a daycare, you're not doing it for the money. You just love children and you're meant to be a mother. And that's your life's purpose. And being able to help play a role in helping these women achieve their greatest life purpose I guess that could be addicting. I'm helping people, but I don't need any more children.
Yeah. Do any of the kids or the moms, are they angry with you now, resent you or mad at you at all? Or like maybe temporarily, but any are fully just they're really mad at you right now. Like maybe these child support moms are the other ones.
There's 140 moms. Yeah. Some of them. Yeah. I like, of course. Yeah. And I am sure with 140 children, some of the kids are going to be upset at me too.
How many are teenagers?
How come you weren't there for me? How come you didn't come to my graduation? How come you didn't? Of course, there's a lot. Some of these moms moved, to the middle of nowhere. It's just difficult to visit. I have moms that are mad at me. How come you're not coming to visit my daughter? I'm in, I have in Louisiana, but it's like not New Orleans. It's like 4 hours from New Orleans. I'm like, how did I get there? It's like it's just off the beaten path. So sometimes they get upset. But I'm doing my best to try and keep them all happy. And, I do a lot of apologies, whether I did something wrong or not. Sometimes an apology goes a long way. Sometimes I'll have ChatGPT write them that, they're all sincere because I really do care about my children and my children's moms. So, but yeah, of course, not all of them are going to be happy. I think some of them are disappointed, but the vast majority of them think I'm the greatest thing since sliced bread. And then you have, some that just think I'm the devil. And I think that's just the nature of it. And once again, I don't think it has anything to do. Some of them are going to say, well, you're the best dad on planet Earth, and I already know that's a lie. But then others are going to call me the devil. And I know that's not true either. Yeah.
What do you think makes a good father? How would you define that?
Yeah, I don't really need to go any further than my father. My father was an amazing father, because he tucked me into bed at night and told me bedtime stories, which I'm not always able to do with my children. He provided for me financially. I'm not in a position to do that. I had a mom today ask me, can you help out with diapers? Our daughter's 1. It's the first time she asked me for anything. And I'm pretty tapped, but I can't say no. Like I cashed out $20. I don't know how many, but that was the first package of diapers I bought this. I'm not providing for my kids financially. It's almost token amounts just to let them know that I care. I know what a good father is because I had a great father, but I'll do my best. And I think, like you say, any role I play is probably better than whatever this frozen anonymous sperm donor would have played. And I think perhaps what they're losing maybe in having a full-time father, they'll gain from having so many brothers and sisters that they'd be able to bond with. I think the greatest gift my parents gave me was not the space shuttle I got when I was 8 years old, that they mailed away a whole bunch of UPC codes from the cereal boxes to get, or whatever gift they bought me. The greatest gift they gave me were my brothers and sisters, who, you only have your parents. Thank God I'm 47 years old and my parents are still alive. But I won't have them for the rest of my life. But my brothers and sisters, it's safe to say that I'll have them for the rest of my life. So I think that's maybe the greatest gift I gave my children too, or their brothers and sisters.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I just got I don't have any kids, but I have two cats. I just got a kitten. And I mean, I just got this kitten. He's so adorable. And I just can't imagine like if just after a couple days, I'm like, I'm in love with this kitten. I got to be around him all the time. Do you ever feel that way with your kid? Like, oh my God, I'm in love with this kid. But now they're all over the place. They're in different states, different countries. I mean, do you miss these kids? Like, do you get attached to them and then you have to leave? And because that would make me really sad, I would think.
Yeah, it does make me sad. I'm not sad for me because I'm going to just go on to other kids. But I was in Asia visiting I have two kids in this Southeast Asia, and I was visiting them. And yeah, I went for like 2 days. It's so inadequate. And the kid's 3 years old and they cry when you leave, and you're like, wow, they really deserve, more time. They really, really do. But of course, I got a life here. I can relocate. I got a job here. Um, None of this is paying the bills, so I still got to keep my day job. So yeah, it makes me sad because I know that they really deserve more, and I'm not able to provide for it.
So would you eventually want to meet a nice woman and settle down and have a family the old fashioned way? Would you ever want to do that?
That sounds nice. First of all, certainly not while I'm helping other women grow their families. I just don't see that as an option. Even women that say they'll accept it, I don't have the time and I don't have the money that a relationship would require. And ultimately, the woman would just be making too much sacrifice that would be just be unfair. Um, yeah, well, wouldn't that be nice? Have my own full family that I could raise full time. I'm already a bit off more than I can chew. If I start being a full time parent to any one of my children, ultimately, inevitably, that's taking away, I think, just the time that I get to spend from the other kids. I think, unfortunately, that's really not on the cards for me. I think I already have uh, my hands full, and I don't think taking on additional responsibility, like being a full time dad, would be responsible.
So you don't feel like you deserve it?
Uh, Deserve, I'm not really lacking love in my life. I'm not getting a pet either. I certainly travel too much for that.
Yeah.
But a lot of my moms are cat ladies.
Are they?
It's not a myth. Cat ladies. They get a lot of cats. It's funny because I had one mom and she had over 20 cats, and she couldn't afford the fertility treatment because all of her money went to her cats. And I said, "You just have to give up the cats, and we can go do IVF," because she was already in her 40s, and I'm like, but she couldn't do it. She doesn't have any children now. She's just taking care of all these cats.
Wow. That's interesting too.
And it's
Ah,
it's interesting because she would have just been an amazing mother. She was just such a caring individual. Like we would get together and she would have cats in her trunk with the heaters, because she has to nurse them every 3 hours. So she can't just leave them at home. She has to nurse them because these are rescues, like she's getting them as infants. Like she was dedicating her whole life, and she wasn't able to have children because of it.
wow, that's interesting. Yeah, it is. I think the people that the haters, like, I don't know if they really have gotten to know you and listen it because it seems like, I mean, I don't know what's in your heart, but I mean, it seems like from what you're telling me in the interviews I've seen, it seems like you're trying to help people. Am I wrong?
Yeah, it's true. In my heart, it feels like I'm doing the right thing. Even though, of course, I'm making mistakes. But when I'm meeting the woman and during and after and seeing all these families that I was able to help grow and the children and how happy they are and how well they're doing, certainly in my heart of hearts, it feels like I'm doing the right thing. But of course, time will tell. But um, what would have been obviously maybe limiting it to 10 or 20 families, but then I'd look at all these other families that I was able to help and how wonderful the kids are doing and they're not really lacking anything. Uh, a lot of these kids are growing up in a two-parent household, which sometimes people have issues with of like, why are you helping these single moms, but a lot of them, around half the families are lesbian families. Of course, you have these heterosexual moms. So even the ones that are against the single moms, it would be a little difficult for them to really come out against the heterosexual couples, or even lesbian moms. And then, Listen, my parents raised 7 kids. They did a great job. These single moms have 1 or 2 children. The ratio is actually better. These kids are getting as much or more attention. I don't know. I don't know if
It's
I'm
an
rational.
interesting, yeah, it's an interesting topic. Like I said, I was a school counselor, so I work with every kinds of family, and it's just interesting to see. I mean, I don't know if that I'm the one to judge. I don't know, but I mean, I do say, like I said, like at least these kids they can call you. They can, maybe that you're not around all the time for every event or whatever, but at least they know who you are. They can call you and talk to you. I mean, if the mom so allows it. So
Yeah, they don't have to feel
something.
different. If there's a Father's Day event at school and I'm able to come, and they don't have to feel left out. I was in Israel this month helping a woman. Plus, I have 5 kids there, so I was visiting them, and I missed the watermelon contest in Jersey, and I already know I would have won it, And my daughter cried because I didn't show. It was like a father watermelon eating contest, Maybe she knew I would have won, so she was crying like, "Oh." So that was sad, but then you sometimes you miss out, but um, I'm very close with a lot of my children, and like you say, sometimes we could just video chat. That some of them, I'm sure, will be upset and wonder how come I wasn't more active. Like I have a kid in Virginia, like come to my house and play. And I'm like not realizing that it's like a 5-hour journey and 5 hours back. Like it's just not feasible. But sometimes kids don't understand. But um, I don't know.
Yeah, it's fascinating stuff. Well,
Yeah,
thank you
the
so
statistics, the math doesn't lie, and the statistics on single parent households are never very good. Kids with the father not present in the child's life is not really a great statistic. I mean, more likely for depression, more likely for criminal records, like all of that. But I think that's really looking for at situations that maybe it doesn't. I'm hoping and praying that maybe that's not applicable to this situation where there was a dad involved. They do know who the father was, or these were single mothers by choice, or maybe there's 2 mothers in the picture. Like there's all sorts of different scenarios, and I like to think that maybe that's not going to be the case. Even though I'm a mathematician, the math doesn't lie, but I think in this scenario, it's the statistics on single parent households are in different situations. They were struggling financially, or they had other issues that maybe and it wasn't a dad that was MIA. Here it's a dad that that they at least they know they're very much loved and cared about, even if I can't be there.
exactly. Yeah. Well, I mean, you've done a lot of these big talk shows, like you did Drew Barrymore and Dr. Oz. Dr. Oz said, did he say he was going to have you on a third time?
But this show's off the air, so yeah, he did. But
Oh, it's off the okay.
well, I think he went
Yeah.
into politics. Maybe he'll restart his show again, but he gave up his show to run for Senate.
Yeah, well,
Pennsylvania.
I knew I didn't know that his show quit. I thought he was maybe just on hiatus. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, because it was interesting on the last one. He said, "I want to have you back, and I want to discuss this. Like, I want to get to the root of this, or whatever." And I was just like, I was curious what he was going to ask you, or what he was going to talk to you about to get to the
Well,
root.
yeah, well, I went on his show twice. And people say, well, he wasn't so nice to you, but I was like, no, that's what he's supposed to do. If I can't answer his tough questions, then I really should be doing what I'm doing if I can't answer questions about it. And it helps me think more about it, whether I'm doing the right thing. So, I thought he was wonderful. I think it's good
Yeah,
to. No, but nobody wants to hear an interview where they're not, going to ask you to put. I don't want to see Trump on Sean Hannity. I want to see him go to CNN and MSNBC. Let him go to those interviews.
no, that's true. That's good. Yeah, I think it was. I can't remember if it was Maury or Oz, and they had some of the moms that you've worked with, and they all loved you. They all praised you. I don't know if they picked those ones or that's just the majority of the ones that you've
It's
dealt with.
it's the vast majority. Yeah, and I'm lucky in the way that the ones that hate me, like these handful that sued me for child support, like those 4 moms. They're embarrassed to go on TV, so they're not going on because they can say whatever they want. It's really, I forgave them because whatever, the money's going to my kids. It's not going to pay a parking ticket. But the people that can't forgive them are these other moms who I helped, because they see me struggle financially, and it makes them upset. And in the end, these moms didn't take money away from me because my money would have went to my kids anyway. I just would have distributed it more equitably. I would have given it to, and when she asked for some diapers, I would have given it $20, which maybe would last, 2 weeks. I could have given $40, give her the case, to give her the diapers for the month. I mean, that's really where the money would have went.
Yeah. I mean, I worry about you. I worry about the moms, and I worry about these kids, but you seem to have a good outlook on it all. You think everything's going to be fine.
Oh yeah, for sure. Of course, I'm a positive person, and yeah. I mean, so far so good. So that's promising. Kids are happy, healthy. Moms are happy.
And
A
you're
great
happy.
mom. Oh, I'm always happy. Exactly. Yeah.
All right. Well, yeah, I always end every episode promoting a charity. Is there a charity that you work with that people could donate to, or?
Mm. Yeah, I mean, it should be like a charity for kids would be really what I should be promoting. But maybe I would say just charity begins at home. Give it to your a family member who needs it. You got a brother who lost a job, or that's really the best charity. Then it's going to the right spot, and you could give it just like as a big birthday present or something. You just add a little bit to their birthday present. I think that's the charity where they don't even know they're getting charity. They think they're just getting a graduation gift or a birthday present. No.
All right. Sounds good. Well, thanks so much for doing this. I'll get this episode up soon, and happy Father's Day in advance. I'm sure it'll be
thank
busy
you.
for you.
My 6-year-old daughter has some kind of father-daughter karate event that I'm about to head to. So I got to practice my karate chop.
All right. Well, good luck with that. Thanks so much again.
So nice chatting. You bet.
Well, there you have it. Ari Nagel. Fascinating story. What do you think? Is he a hero for helping couples and single moms have a baby who couldn't otherwise conceive? Or is this reckless behavior of an egomaniac? Let me know in the comments. Curious what your thoughts are. I just ask that you be respectful. I appreciate all your support for the show and our guests. And I want to thank Ari again for taking the time to do my podcast. He's obviously a very busy man. Thank you all for listening or watching this. Have a great rest of your day, and shoot for the moon.